Flipped by Wendelin Van Dranen. Chapter 1. Bryce. Diving Under.